You are now listening to the podcast for geeks and the stuff they love, where each week we'll talk about everything from anime to movies, games, and prop collecting with the people who create and love it. I'm Jeromy.
I'm Vinz.
And this is your Geek Fix.
All right, so this is a big week, actually. I don't know if you're aware of this, but it depends on where you're listening to this podcast. If you listen to it on YouTube, it actually has a different number episode than if you listen to it on like Spotify or Apple Podcasts. This is our 10th episode already. Isn't that pretty impressive?
Yeah.
Our very first episode we did was on Star Wars, and it was on May the 4th. And actually, this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about Star Wars a little bit as well, but more about building stuff from Star Wars. And actually, along these lines, we got... I should say this past week we extended the invitation to everyone to send us pictures and stories and things that you guys are excited about that we could talk about on here, or that we could kind of show off of that's yours. We had received a photo as well as some information from Norman Gagnon. I think that's how you say it.
Gagnon. Yeah.
He sent us a picture of both his R2-D2 as well as a proton pack that he made. He said both of the props are scratch built. I've retrofitted my proton pack with a quick release. As for the R2-D2 droid, this was originally a dome trash can, and all the details that were added to it was discarded office supplies and stuff that I found in the trash. So basically the unit that he made was using a dome trash can and a bunch of stuff that was basically, trash type items. So he kit bashed the whole thing and made something that looks really cool that I did put in the community section on our page. But anyway, so Vince, I've been watching some of your stuff lately. Not just one, but two droids that you're, and maybe more. I don't know. Is that accurate? I mean,
yeah. So one of them is a wife-size K2SO. My wife is not that tall, and so the droid is. I don't know the exact scale, but on Thingiverse a while back, there was a Nordwick Designs designed a K2SO kit that you could 3D print. And K2SO is the droid from Rogue One, the big assassin droid. And I found out that it could only fit in a certain amount on my print bed, so I just used the biggest part and scaled it, and then used that scale to do the other parts. And
what did you print it in?
In PLA, black PLA, and
okay.
I kind of suffered from it because it was in 2017, and I had it stored in a bin in the garage for a while. And with all my other stuff that I was building, I found out that the skills that I accumulated over time were getting better, so I thought I would finish the droid finally. But
take a second stab at it.
Yeah, but from the looks of it, everything looked pretty okay. There was some parts that I misprinted or misaligned that I wasn't happy with. I couldn't get the right glue to stick, all that kind of stuff. And with the knowledge of today, that was pretty trivial. But then I found out that a lot of the PLA was very brittle, and actually as brittle as glass. So whenever I was working on something that was like the knee joints or whatever, they would just shatter.
Yeah.
And I figured out I only printed them like very hollow. So I thought, some stuff I had to reprint. And then basically my 3D printers broke.
Oh no.
Yeah, so I'm fixing them, but. Yeah, that's one of the projects that is still in the backlog that I want to finish because I really like it, and my bigger projects are coming up, and I wanted to have this one finished before the others came. So one of the things that I found out is that you can get plans for 3D printing a life-size R2-D2. So I looked into that, and I thought I'd try that out, but the person who makes those designs also has these BB-R2s, or the baby Astromechs.
Yeah.
And those are like really small ones, a bit like the Funko Pop lookalikes kind of ones that you can 3D print. That are pretty easy to assemble, and also it only takes 3 servos and you have a fully functioning droid, so to say.
Wow, really?
Yeah, and I mean, my 3D printer still sucks, so it isn't the best quality 3D print I have had, so there are gaps and it's not great. But it's consistent at least, so it's a really scrappy, crappy R6 droid that I'm building. Hopefully I can give it away to a friend of mine who I couldn't visit during his wedding because of the COVID situation, but hopefully that'll make up for it at least. And then the big thing is I'm going to work on a 1-to-1 scale R2-D2. And
metal. This one's metal, isn't it?
Yeah, thankfully I work for a company that allows you to spend some time off hours to figure out some stuff. And I'm still part of the robotics club, I always call it, of our company. And we have a very, very large plasma cutter. At a very reasonable price, I was allowed to get the files cut in aluminum, and so hopefully at the end of next week I'll have a aluminum R2-D2 frame at least.
Wow.
Yeah, and then
this is the inner frame, or are you saying like
the inner frame? So
okay.
it's like a little barrel, and then also I was able to cut the legs, and a friend of mine has a CNC router that will probably do some wood parts as well. And then in September, me and a friend of mine will go on a road trip to Germany to actually purchase an aluminum R2-D2 dome. Because that's
really?
something I can't make myself because it has to be vacuum formed.
Like, are these domes that are made specially for R2-D2, or like it's just a good... Oh,
no,
really?
they're actually laser cut with all the panels pre-cut and everything. There are two domes,
wow.
The inner one and the outer one. And they're all made up to spec, and it's really great stuff. It's expensive stuff, but I did the calculation between me, working on my 3D printer and printing stuff, then having to glue it together, sanding it, painting it, sanding it again, then painting it, priming it. I was like, no, all that time spent is not worth the amount of money I'm gonna spend on a fully pre-built aluminum dome.
Yeah.
So
they aren't easy to get it that right gloss and everything else too. Without it. Yeah.
And you're still trying to make plastic look like metal, and especially with it's the face of R2-D2, so you want to make it look as realistic as possible. Yeah. And then thankfully the guy in Germany makes them. Apparently that's a thing I didn't know, but you have spin marks on them, so it's aluminum, and then it gets hydroformed or something, and they do it by spinning it against water pressure or whatever. I have no idea. But apparently the original ones were made the same way, or at least similarly. And that gives a bit of a mark on the aluminum. It's actually funny. I call it aluminium in Europe.
That's a majority of in Europe and things too. I like that so much better. It makes it so much more cool than aluminum.
Aluminum,
which is very much I hear that's most common in the U.S., but but UK and beyond.
It's difficult to find the right stuff then if you are looking at the forums or whatever, and you have to write either aluminium or aluminum. So if you want to find someone in Europe, search for aluminium, and you'll most likely find someone local selling it. That's the biggest gripe I have so far. Is most of the people are of course based in the US that are doing it. I got enrolled in the Droid Builders Club, and
you did? Okay.
Yeah, and the Dutch one.
That's the big one.
Well, it's the Dutch one is a very small one with only four active
members. Is it still tied in though with the other, or
it's a separate website. It has a bit of a similar setup. I don't think there's an actual. From the looks of it, I mean, some posts were like 2021. It's not that active, and of course, the Netherlands is a small country, and I don't think many people are crazy enough to start building full-size R2-D2 here.
There's a few big ones that are out there. You got the R2-D2 Builders Club, which is the one that you'll see at most of the conferences, and they kind of advertise at all the Star Wars conferences. And then you got the Astromech .net, which kind of has a lot of helps connect you with a lot of the parts and figuring out what Greeblies use and whatever else. And you get the R2D2builder.com, which is the R2D2 builders thing. That's the one that Chris Lee he's one of the ones that did the 1-to-1 scale R2D2s, but he was also the one that was trying to build the full scale Millennium Falcon.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And created a club to be able to do that. And then I noticed, because I went to look at it today since I was thinking about it, and it seems like it died off around when Galaxy's Edge started building theirs. And so I wonder if it's just like they're like, well, what's the point now? I don't know. But he actually purchased property. He purchased 88 acres in Nashville to be able to build this Millennium Falcon, with the idea that people would be able to go there and kind of contribute to it and put together and stuff. But yeah, I mean, you get those forums out there, the people that can track down all those original parts that were used, where you don't have to necessarily build something from scratch. But on the flip side, if you had an original R2-D2, there wasn't really much inside, and those parts were so not long lasting. I don't know how to better put it. I mean, we're talking major wires and a lot more boards and a giant spot for somebody small to sit in.
Yeah, from what I gathered is that at least the ones they made for the first movie were made with aluminum and pretty durable. And then going forward, I think for the prequels they just used fiberglass casts. So if you're building,
there was. The original one did make it into one of the prequels. Adam Savage is the one that dug out all the guts from that to be. That was his job, was to dig it out to put in, some things, and which is, speaking of whom, I was looking at, he's about to donate his R2-D2 to the Air and Space Museum. I think it is. And I saw a picture of it, and I was wanting to match that color, that blue. Have you already looked at how you're going to do this part? The blue on those panels, like what color that really is?
Yeah. So there are people. I believe his name is Don Beast or something, or like people that are related to the original stuff, and some people were quoted. They call it hypothetical blue or something. Like hypothetically, I would buy this color, and that color, and then do a coat of this, and this. And hypothetically, that would look like something along the lines of the stuff you would see in the movies. That's why they call it hypothetical blue. But those are, one of the questions that was asked on the Droid Builders Club, the Dutch ones, saying, what color blue do I use? And they say, well, it's every color blue you can imagine, because it's all different. If you put all the R2s together, they're all different.
They're slightly different.
Yeah.
You want that metallic look, but it's definitely a deep blue and stuff. But I liked the way that his looked, as well as the white, because it's not really white either, matching that. So I wrote to one of our contacts over there and just asked, can I get a close-up of a couple of those panels, and also can you tell me if he knows what the color actually was? So, but yeah, I did get some reference photos that are a little bit closer up, and so at least to make it look like that one, which was just kind of
it's a legacy.
It's actually not paint. It's the stuff that you use. So there's stuff that you can buy, this blue that you put onto metals.
All right, yeah.
To be able to mark them.
The blueprint.
In order to be able to cut and stuff like that. That's the color it is.
Okay.
That's what he used. So, but that will scratch off too. So I think I got to coat it with something else afterwards. But at any rate,
there's a lot of theories about it. And if you go to Astromech.net, there's like threads of people spending a lot of time figuring that out. For me, I have also the benefit of being able to powder coat it at my work. So for me, it's probably going to be whatever color they have in the can.
That is awesome, though. Yeah. Wow. So you'll have like the car finish, basically level of paint on it.
Industrial engineering finish. More likely. So the company I work for is especially working with logistics and manufacturing, like conveyor belts and all that kind of stuff. So they have a lot of really cool engineering things. I'm also trying to score, electromotors or whatever with a company discount if possible, because those are expensive. But it's really fun because the people involved also really enjoy it. And I send over the files and they get enthusiastic about it. Like a few years ago, I sent over some files to make a 3D printer frame. And I got a lot of questions, and people were really excited about it. And you build some rapport. So I basically sent the guy an email again and said, okay, 3D printer is finished. Now I have a bigger project for you to tackle.
Yeah.
Here's 2 square meters of R2D2 for you. Can you cut it out for
Wow.
me? So I really hope it works, because that would be really great. I of course have 3D printers that can maybe fill in the gaps with stuff that I would have to build or buy out of aluminum. We'll see how far it goes. It's a fun project. Yeah.
It's real sciencey because I mean, another factor with R2 is his weight.
Yeah.
And so I mean, having to calculate in that weight with what your drive has to be able to move that body and then fill it with stuff.
Well, the good
on
thing
the
is with
inside.
the advancement of the fact that we have e-bikes and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The guys for the sequel series who were working on the R2s, they figured out that if you get like an e-bike hub motor that you put in your front wheel or your rear wheel, and you cut off the flange for the spokes, and you put on a rubber wheel, it will turn still as a wheel, and you have nothing else but the wires that you have to connect to your controller and the little bit that connects it to the T-bar, I guess, of the bike. So it's just a screw, and the other part has some wires out of it, and you have a self-propelling wheel that only needs power and some knowledge about where to go. So they figured that out, and those can pull people on a bike. So you have 2 of them ideally on both legs. So people did the math, and they say it can carry you and your wife and your kids and your costume bins and everything else, including your
Wow.
R2D2, because of there are brushless motors that have huge torque, and they might not go fast, but they can pull really well. Some guy on the forums made a guesstimate on what it can pull, and one guy
Wow.
even wanted to show R2D2 towing his truck. Stuff like that. They have they call it Zillas, I believe. I'm really new to this, so if people listening to this, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, because I just started looking at this for a month or 2. But they call them Zillas, which is basically like if you have a mouse droid and you put in the most extreme motor that you have, so it can go really fast or pull really big things. Then those are like the overpowered droids that you just fire off on a freeway or something. That's something you do. So yeah, weight is still a concern, but also the fact is that something I found out, which you might not immediately think of. I mean, I work at the robotics club, so a bit more about it. So. I wouldn't call it sentience, but having an AI in there, so to make it a smart robot.
Yeah.
Last thing you want to do is the AI or whatever you put in there programming not working and driving over a kid or a dog or whatever. So it's especially with the accountability that you want to keep R2D2 as dumb as possible, so that it does exactly what you tell it to do by remote, and with as little latency as possible. So R2D2 itself is technically not so complex as you might think it is, because it's just lights that go on and off and some sounds that you can play. So you have to have a speaker, and the motors themselves are pretty easy as well. It is the complexity mainly in getting those parts right, and there are blueprints for it, but a lot of people that I see are waiting for people that make those parts out of aluminum or styrene or whatever. And that is the biggest bottleneck in getting an R2D2 finished, is getting the right parts for it, not so much the technical stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I think there's different levels of building with it. This, which kind of brings us over to the other related topic, which is lightsabers. I think there's different levels that you can go at the lightsaber with.
Yeah.
You can have 2 people that both have lightsabers, which either they bought or that they built, that can be comparable to one extent or another. But at the same time, I mean, when it gets down to it, you can get really high end, and you can get really expensive, and you can do everything you can to make it fancy. But it's something that you can tailor build, just like the R2. Like you can build it for what you're wanting to use it for what you want people to see it with. if you're planning on having an actual battle with it, maybe don't invest $2,000 on your
Yeah.
your lightsaber.
Yeah, so there are
don't
different
know.
gradations. So you have people, you can buy the toy ones, of course. They're by no means actual replicas of the real thing, but they're
No.
good to hit your kid brother with if he's annoying.
Right.
And then you have like the actual stunt things that people like. I heard there was like a Jedi training school in America that you can actually learn how to fight with lightsabers with those
Yeah.
training. And then of course there are the custom ones that you can have made. So for me, I don't know how many lightsabers do you have, Jeromy?
I've actually built a couple, and I gave them away.
Oh.
One of them I made last year for May 4th. Actually, I should say I made two last year for May 4th. So I made one for a friend at work because we both are into Star Wars, and I said, I ought to do something for it. So I made a wood box with her name in Jedi on the front, and then the lightsaber on the inside. I took an old toy and I just fixed it up and made it look fancy and made it gold and silver kind of thing. But this was around when they were releasing the retractable, all the videos and things that were coming out for the retractable lightsaber that Disney was using at their new hotel that we talked about a month ago.
Yeah.
And so I decided, and we got to all the blueprints had been released because, of course, when you submit something for patent office, then everyone can see it. And so everyone was seeing and reviewing how they did it. And it was basically the technology you would use for say a ruler. I don't have one in mind, but the slide rulers. Not slide rulers, like
The extendable ones.
COVID brain. Yeah, the extendable ones. That basically it's just that, and that was the reason why she's so still. When you watch the videos of it, she doesn't like move very fast or anything. People that have gone to the actual hotel have said that there's a point where you can see that she switches from the one that extends and retracts to another one that she actually can fight with.
Okay, yeah.
So I decided that I'd show how I would make it. And at first I was just going to describe how I would make it. And then each stage I decided to build that. So in the last 5 minutes of the video, we made a retractable lightsaber that uses basically an electric umbrella technology and some LEDs. But because all of that goes down into the hilt, it doesn't do. I can't do sound.
No.
I didn't have room to put. There wouldn't be any room to put anything else. So I mean, again, where it's like if you want the function to be to do something like expand and contract and light up, then that's all more that one can do. But if you want it to be able to do other cool things, like making sound and reacting with sparks and things like that, you're probably talking more something along the lines of a NeoPixel blade or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah. What about you? Because I know you've done some lightsabery stuff.
Yeah, so we had to clean up our robotics lab a couple of weeks ago because the building that it was in is either going to be repurposed or demolished, and to have a new one built on top of it. So we had to get rid of a lot of stuff that was lingering around there. And one of the things I found out, and I forgot all about it, was the Anakin Skywalker lightsaber that I 3D printed and glued together, or not even glued together, just stuck together with friction, and used a Molotov chrome pen to just make it look silver.
Yeah.
It looked pretty daft, but for the first experience with a 3D printer and having to hold something in your hand that is lightsaber adjacent at least, it used a pretty accurate model, but it was just
It's a stunt prop.
It's a stunt, yeah,
Right.
and a very, very perishable, easy to break stunt prop. I don't know. I somehow I'm too cheap with my filament and just make it really hollow. But so that was really fun to see because with May the 4th, I'm basically triggered by our podcast. I was looking around to see if they maybe shipped stuff from Disneyland Paris to that you could buy online instead of having to go to the park. And lo and behold, they actually sold those lightsabers for a limited time, like the Darth Vader one and they call it Legacy. So it's like the Luke Anakin kind of lightsaber, the blue one.
Okay.
and that's my favorite lightsaber of all time because it's for me the first one I saw in the movies, the one in Obi-Wan's hut, and so yeah, I purchased that one. I was really happy with it. Of course, as a true, they jokingly call it the youngling slayer, right? Because Anakin kills off some Jedi.
Right. Yeah.
So in true Anakin fashion, I tested it out in my son's bedroom because he has a blinding, he has blinds to keep the light out. So that was the first test run of the Anakin lightsaber true to tradition. He wasn't in there, but it was the darkest room that we have. And it's great. I mean, it's metal. It looks the part. It's awesome. It's a great replica, and also for the price, it was relatively cheap. So, it comes with a sort of like NeoPixelish blade, and it's full metal. It's really heavy. It has sounds. It has sparks. Everything, and it was like 180 euros actually, without shipping. And because it was May the 4th, you got like a key to the kingdom kind of deal with a special Star Wars key. Yeah, it was pretty good. And to sell it to my wife, I bought a Boba Fett hat for my brother. So that was the initial purchase. So to say. Like, I also dropped in a lightsaber that I didn't mention. But yeah, and
that's pretty
good
though. Yeah. So the blade it screws off though too.
Yeah.
So it probably has one of those. I wonder if it has that PCB adapter. There's a PCB adapter that's in a majority of these where like for the NeoPixels and stuff like that. I know that you can actually you can stick on one of those NeoPixel blades onto a majority of other lightsabers that have that connector right there.
There are adapters for it, and also there's a difference between the ones I have and also the one that you have in the Doc Ondar's one in the Galaxy's Edge, because those have the kyber crystal functionality. But because of the fact that it's like a signature lightsaber that a character owns, you cannot customize it with any crystals or whatever. It's just... But when I went to... and I actually made a big mistake that I got told off by my wife. It was 2011 when I got engaged, back in the previous podcast.
Oh, really? She heard the podcast?
Yeah.
You got in trouble.
How can you forget? Then it was really easy to remember, even because it was 13, 12, 11, like the 13th of December on the 11th. But it was my birthday also, and I was at Star Tours, and there's this little shop in the Disney World, Disneyland in Paris, where they also had this build your lightsaber kind of deal.
Oh.
And it was
so similar to the Galaxy's Edge.
No, it was really cheap. It was all like the toy plastic parts, and back then it only had prequel stuff like Count Dooku's staff and everything. So I was so bent on getting all the different parts so that I could, have all of the combinations. So I had like 3 or 4 lightsabers in my hand to make sure I had all the parts. And what I didn't notice, my wife was filming me. And there was this little kid standing behind me, and he was just too afraid to ask me to step aside because he was trying to look at the stuff as well. And I was just going there like a madman. And the kid finally just gave up, and started looking elsewhere. And I didn't know, so I wish my wife told me. But no, he got around afterwards. But it was really funny to see that. I was laser focused on getting those parts. So I have them in a suitcase somewhere. So, yeah, they had a retractable, like the telescopic ones that you could screw.
Oh,
in.
Yeah.
And then
pulls in, pulls out.
Yeah, really simple
if you
stuff.
flick it, it goes like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, that's very cool. I think we went out to Galaxy's Edge this year, and I don't know that. I mean, it's more of a experience than it is something where I'd say, oh yeah, that's the lightsaber I'd want to spend money on. You know what I mean?
All right, yeah.
But some of the stuff that I've seen with people being able to, again, there's a lot of forums out there for being able to build these things that are really, really great. This is, I mean, the original one was made from a light meter, like a film light meter. So, I mean, people have gotten a hold of some of those really old light meters and actually even gutted those to make their own similar, one.
Yeah.
But yeah, these are it's cool to see what people can come up with and how they kind of make it unique. It's something uniquely theirs. What'd you think of the lightsabers and the? Have you been watching Obi-Wan?
Yeah.
What do you think of the lightsabers that were featured in this show?
I think the fights were okay the way they did it, but I expected a bit more. Like, yeah, I don't know. If you look at, for example, the video games, or if you look at what some fan films do with the lightsaber fighting, of course you want to have the real actors doing the stuff, and it's just a one-off thing with Ewan McGregor. But I expected a bit more from it. With the lightsabers itself, of course, what surprised me the most was the legacy lightsaber, Anakin's lightsaber that he had stored, has some bubbles on the hilt. And those were only there in A New Hope, and they weren't there in Empire Strikes Back and whatever. And it was like a calculator display or something they shoved over the PCB in the handle. And I was like, why doesn't mine have this one? So I immediately started Googling stuff.
Yeah, you gotta upgrade it.
Well, apparently they wanted to make it look more spacey, but it wasn't really practical because the thing kept falling out. So at the end, with the Empire and everything, they just left it out, so it was not so cumbersome.
Huh. I like the I don't know what they're called. I like the blades that have the
the Inquisitor blades.
They spin on.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. I can't think of a way to make one of those, but I'm sure there is.
Yeah, there's a HasLab. I don't know if it failed or not because there was some critique on it, but I saw a prototype in a video, and the difficulty is to making it spin, which it doesn't.
Yeah.
But it does detach, so you have two of those lightsabers there, and it also had some technology that would detect if it was hit by another lightsaber, so it would make some sparks and all that stuff. That's pretty cool stuff. But they're making it really difficult for themselves to make actual practical lightsabers going forward, especially with all the moving parts and everything. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I want to extend out to people again. First off, kind of what we opened up with. Really appreciate people sending in their questions and sending in pictures and things like that. We really appreciate that because that's a lot of what we want to be able to do. In fact, we'll be answering some questions in some of our upcoming episodes. But if you have a R2D2 or a lightsaber or a Millennium Falcon or whatever that you're doing, or you have some other kind of project that you have out there, or questions or stories, please send them our way. Send it to yourgeekfix@gmail.com so Vince and I can kind of talk about them and bring them up. We'd love to show them off as well. We'll put it in our community section. So please feel free and submit some of those things. Also, check out Vince. Vince on Twitter, right?
Yeah, it's at massivedmg_.
Awesome. And also, I still will keep on pushing it because I still like his YouTube channel, Massive DMG. Check that out as well. If you like this podcast and want more, stay tuned for that. And in the meantime, this is your Geek Fix.